Hey everyone, welcome to another retro review. This is the Transformers Alternators, Smokescreen, the very first release of that line. You can see him there in front of his box. So you can put them off on the side real quick and take a look at said box. And yes, it is a, Alternators box, which is kind of styled to look more or less like a, model car box, which is kind of the idea here. So you see it's very blue. There's an initial wave, initial release of Alternators had a blue box. The later ones would get a red box and then the bubble box. You can see there the classic, the early 2000s Transformers logo with the Alternators right there. It's right there. They got a very, very shiny silver Autobot logo and the Subaru logo and the vehicle robot. Hey, a nice bit of artwork of Smokescreen in his robot mode right there. And you get, of course, the nice big window. You can see all sorts of the highly detailed robot car mode right there. You can see in the background a little bit on the inside of the box. Maybe you might be able to see that, but there is like a kind of a picture of the car. It also says Subaru Impreza WRC because this is a very specific kind of Impreza. Right there, Smokescreen, almost like that's actual name. It's not Alternator Smokescreen, it's Alternator Subaru Impreza WRC Smokescreen. Regardless, on the top here, you got the Subaru logo and all that, pretty much all the same stuff again. And of course, yeah, robots in disguise, multiple languages, and Hasbro logo. On this side, hey, there's a picture of the car mode, although I believe that is the Binaltech version. I'll get into that in a little bit. Right there, it says right there, it's in scale, 1/24 scale. That was the whole thing. That was the whole conceit of the line. Again, you got the robot mode here on the side, which again, I believe that's the Binaltech version. On the bottom, you have, hey, look, some little bits here, including please keep company details for further reference. Yeah, Viper. Yeah, they're telling you like, hey, this is coming soon. This was the second release in the line. It was Sideswipe as a Dodge Viper and everything, the barcode and everything. And on the back, you have some stuff about the toy, including, hey, adjustable seats and geodes interior, rubber tires, removable engine becomes a weapon, and number 3, advanced, because they had that 4-point scale, which, yeah, he was considered advanced. Was considering everything, wow, again, things have changed in the 2000s. So, he also comes with this instruction sheet, which just kind of gives you an idea of how simple things have gotten, or were at the time, because this is an advanced toy. There's only 16 steps. Granted, some of them have multiple steps within said steps, but, yeah. He's actually not that complicated. So, Alternators Smokescreen. This is my introduction to the line, and for a lot of people, of course, because it's the first one, it was their introduction to the line, and Alternators is a wild line. At the time, it was very much the collector-oriented line in the early 2000s, and, it kind of, it bombed. To be bluntly, it did not do very well. Nor the Binaltech version not do very well. So yeah, getting in close here, you can see there's a reason why this was picked out first. In fact, this was actually not supposed to be the first release of this mold. The first release was supposed to be the WRX version that was Silver Streak, became Silver Streak, just more of a more standard silver Impreza. But they put this one because it really stands out. It's a race car with race car livery and everything. So like, it stood out, so they decided to make this the first release to really catch people's eyes and get people interested in Alternators or Binaltech, depending on which version you're buying. But yeah, you can see all this like racing stuff. You got the 2003 Rally Monte Carlo, number 8. There was also Binaltech version that also had the number 7, which they did not do. Hasbro did not do. You got the big old Subaru racing thing. You got a bunch of actual real world licensed stuff like Pirelli and Motul and Robin right there, and you have all these things like Kenwood and Snap-on and yeah, all these actual logos and stuff. You got here because you can see the Subaru thing. You got all this stuff on it, all over the World Rally Team, and the racer names like the Mackinnon and Lindstrom right there on the rear window, and it's just all this detail. And the S30 WRT right here on the bumper and everything, STI Performance and Pro Drive, and again more Pirelli, and yeah, these rubber tires with the gold rims and everything. You got all this stuff, and there's not actually a whole lot giving away that this is actually a transforming robot, other than stuff like the split window and whatnot. Like the split window kind of gives us something that something's not, there's a couple little things beyond that, but yeah, there's not a whole lot giving away that this is actually a robot in disguise. Yeah, even the underside is pretty clean. Again, there's kind of the more obvious tells, but still, the underside is pretty clean as well, and that's pretty impressive. And yeah, he rolls pretty well as well. Those rubber tires really help a lot. There's a lot of good rolling here. And the other cool thing is, yeah, the tires can turn. Granted, turn them too far and they kind of start catching on the plastic, but still, they can turn back and forth as well, thanks to a very clever system of just using magnets and whatnot. It's actually very clever because, yeah, there's no axle, so how do you make that work? And yeah, just the magnets in a plastic bar. And on top of all that, well, there's a big thing, which is, well, because there's like a lot of 1/24 scale model cars, the doors can open, and they even kind of slide out a bit, just kind of make sure that, they stay kind of how they're, I guess, looks how it's supposed to look. So the doors can open, the hood can open. You can see in there kind of, well, sort of the engine of sorts, although it's mostly just kind of a piece of an engine, but still. The rear doors even can open, which is wild. There's no B-pillar. I'm not sure the Impreza has a B-pillar. I'm pretty sure it does, but yeah. These doors can open. The trunk can open. All you have to do the slide and open thing, but the trunk opens to real pretty much not much of anything, actually. The trunk opens. They can see the seats can move forward and back. The front seats anyway, because there's not really. There's kind of implied back seats. I don't know if you can see that, but there's implied because that's where the legs are. There's a steering wheel, and you can see there's detail. Like there's actual molded detail of like the actual dashboard inside there. And it's pretty wild. And if I remember correctly, though, the Vinyltech version had the steering wheel on the right side because it was Japanese. So yeah, this is the whole thing. The idea was Alternators was, well, really not really the first time, but kind of a collector-oriented line. The idea was a collector-oriented line with realistic car modes. Which, yeah, we hadn't seen realistic car modes since the 80s because, well, basically car manufacturers' licensing can change a bit. There was a point in time you could make toys and model kits based off real cars, and they didn't care. But then someone got the bright idea of, hey, wait a minute, we can make money off of this. Let's tell them that, hey, we want a share cut of the profits, or else we'll sue. Because, well, they did have the rights to these these models, these designs. So, well, now these toy manufacturers have to play ball. So things changed since the 80s and 70s and 80s. And this is all born of, well, Robots in Disguise Sideburn. Because there was a whole thing there where, well, they tried to release Sideburn with no, trying to make changes to get away with, not getting, any sort of legal trouble. But Chrysler kept going, nah, that's a Viper. And so Hasbro had to pay the license for the Viper, which is part of the reason why the Viper is one of the first cars in the line, because Hasbro had already established a relationship, and then Takara had already established a relationship with Subaru. And so this kind of became a whole thing. Just Subaru and Chrysler stuff became the first Alternators toys. So that's why, the next one was, Sideswipe as a Lamborghini or as a Dodge Viper. The third one was Hound as a Jeep, and so on and so forth. And yeah, this was supposed to be the collector-oriented line and it was kind of a big risky experiment. And yeah, looks great. I'll get a little more into that later, but yeah, it looks great right now. And yeah, that was the thing was, well, Takara did Vinyltech, which the big difference was, one, it came with actual fiction, which Alternators didn't really come with fiction at all. Vinyltech came with actual fiction, which actually turned out to be part of the G1 continuity and everything, kind of a between, I believe, the idea was supposed to be between season 2 and the movie. And then the other big difference was, well, they did diecast. This is plastic, but they did diecast like, well, the most 1/24 scale model cars were, which looked fantastic, as you probably saw from those box pictures. But there's one little eensy-weensy little problem. The paint, particularly on the early ones, particularly the earliest releases of Smokescreen, had a tendency to chip because, well, it's painted diecast, and, well, you start transforming it or whatever, and, their paint's coming off on the doors and whatnot, and that's a problem. Regardless, it also Hasbro did mostly keep costs down, but yeah, that was a big thing. Was if you're a collector, well, you either go for the domestic alternators, which were cheaper and easier to get because you just get them at Walmart, or you had to splurge for the importing the Vinyltech, which costs a lot more money and also were tending to kind of be more fragile, but they're heavier and they look nicer. But yeah, which probably might have somewhat fed into why Alternators failed, but I'm not sure if that's the case considering Vinyltech also failed. So and both of them tried to reinvent themselves multiple times, one of them very infamously, and yeah. Kind of then the line just kind of fizzled out and died by pretty much like 2005 was dead, other than a couple of convention exclusives. Still, looks great, and it was kind of an interesting idea, and kind of led to many things, including, I would argue, this kind of helped lead to some of the later Masterpiece stuff, and also led to the live-action movie stuff. I think If I recall, the live action movie stuff helped establish, or this helped establish a connection to GM, which led to the live action movies being kind of a thing as they are. And there you go. Right? So Bayverse fans, remember, this is part of the reason why you even have a Bayverse. So just remember that. Anyway, enough rambling. I've gone on long enough. As for some measurements in this mode, he is lengthwise 7 1/4 inches or 18.4 centimeters. His weight is 7.8 ounces or 224 grams. So he's pretty good heft to him and everything. Because bars also has a lot. You can see there's a lot of screws and rivets and pins and whatnot in there. So yeah, that's probably add to the heft. But yeah. As for some comparisons, this is kind of a tricky one because I was trying to figure out what to do here. And well, considering it was a retail figure, well, here's a more modern retail Smokescreen. This is a deluxe class, from a couple years. And what was it? Was it Legacy or was it before that? I don't know. Yeah, regardless, a fairly recent Smokescreen. Quite the size difference, but technically, well, this costs more technically. Although we'll get into that a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit later. And because again, I feel like Alternators Binaltech had an influence on Masterpiece. I don't have a Masterpiece Smokescreen, but I do have a Masterpiece, Blue Streak, which Smokescreen was based off. So there you go. There, kind of, I would say that yeah. I would very much say that Alternators very much influenced Masterpiece, including stuff like how the weapons worked and whatnot. So there you go. The other cool thing about Alternators was it was kind of compatible with the MP04 trailer and everything, because it was kind of supposed to be somewhat in scale with MP1. But yeah. So getting to transformation, which is, this is why the whole thing about the Alternators was cool, is because it looks like a realistic model car, and then, it transforms into a robot too. You just open that hood and pop out this engine right here, just unpeg it, hopefully. Yeah, unpeg that and get that off to the side. We'll put it off to the side and close this back up. Then you go ahead and open these doors right here to get them all the way. And then right here, what you want to do is go ahead and start separating stuff. You want to push these forward a bit. You want to pop this roof off a little bit. You might want to open a door right here so you can unpeg the roof like that, see? And then you can pull this whole chunk forward right here. Pull this chunk forward and you can close this door up for now. And pull this chunk forward and then go ahead right here and you split the back half in half like so. You want to take the bumper here, you want to unpeg it and bring it down like that. And right here, there's a little piece right here. You push this forward right here, and this kind of braces the bumper in a spot kind of like that. So it sits like that. And same, you can see that it sits like that. And then of course you do the same thing on this side. Bring this forward and push this piece down right here. Helps brace the bumper in place so it sits right more or less like that. And then you go ahead and rotate this up like so, and like so, rotating those up. And then you take these doors here and close them up like this. Then right here, what you want to do is take this piece right here and fold that forward like that. And then you bring the legs back down right here, like so. Then you rotate this whole thing 180 like that. Gonna bring this up a bit. From here, what you want to do, making sure these doors stay open, is you want to untab these bits and bring them inward. Bring them inward one at a time. Make sure this fold the seat all the way forward and fold this piece in like that. And again, untab this, bring this forward, make sure the seat's folded all the way up, and then rotate this part back. You want to bring them together. You'll see they can peg together right there like that. And then they just peg into the waist piece like that. And that's pretty much most of the torso block done. Now coming up here, what you want to do, this is probably the trickiest part, because this is where it tends to be a problem for people, is getting the arms out without popping the arms out. So you want to undo, bring the arms down kind of like this, and it's kind of a lot of squeezing it around, and bring this out like that right here. And then you want to kind of angle this wheel back. You want to push on this, so you see, and then you can bring it around like that, and then bring it down like that, and bring it up like so, and then you can take the hand and rotate it that way, like that. That gets it out. And same thing on this side. This is the one on mine that always likes to pop off, is this one. So you can bring it out. Yeah, bring it out in the... This is always the tricky part. Getting it out without popping it off the thing. So bring it out. Bring it out right there. And then you can take this wheel and make sure it clears everything, like so. rotate that around and bring that around like that. With that done, you can go ahead and bring this whole assembly right here forward like this. And then what you want to do is you want to take the steering wheel, and collapse it inward so you can bring this down and then bring the windshield back. Windshield and dashboard backwards as well. Like that, make sure that's the problem. This can easily catch on the windshield, to make sure it doesn't do that. Yeah, bring this down and then also lift this up. I also need to tilt the head back a bit. Yeah, as you do so, you can bring this all the way down, bring this all the way in. Make sure this comes down, it'll click into place. There's going to be tabs and stuff in that. You can feel kind of click into place. Make sure this all the way back right here. This comes back, and then right here you want to take this part and rotate this inward like this, so it can go all the way against like that. And to keep the doors out, to keep this out, and make adjustments to how he's standing. And there you go. There is Smokescreen. In his robot mode. And yep, that's a alternator transformation, which honestly at the time it seemed really difficult. I mean, I remember at Transformers Convention they had a whole Transformers Convention, they had a whole like thing about they had a whole contest about, you know, transforming, you know, like transforming contest, and they used an alternator silver streak as the an entry for the adult class. I can't remember what they used for the kids, but yeah, the adult tournament, yeah, it was a alternator silver streak, which yeah, can tell you how things have changed since then. Because nowadays this is pretty easy. The only real struggle is getting the arms out without, you know, doing, you know, popping this out of its socket, you know, or anything, which happens often. But it's kind of, that's the thing, is you get this weird thing of like, yeah, the robot looks kind of, well, to be blunt, a little weird, because, well, yeah, it's kind of amazing what they've done, considering there's the whole interior thing. You know, it's got the whole detailed interior and all that stuff, and it kind of, you can still see bits of it, but like, it folds up in such a way that it works really well. It's just kind of, yeah, to a degree, but yeah, there's also some stuff about here which definitely kind of betrays its age, in the sense that like, this sort of stuff wouldn't fly. Like this doesn't lock in. Like these parts, they don't lock in anywhere. Like when you transform it, they just kind of chill out on the back. There's a lot of parts that don't lock in. It's just kind of a resting spots where, you know, you just it's just kind of the resting point where you put things, and there is no locking in. Like this stuff right here, this would like tab together. These bits were tabbed together in a certain way, and so on and so forth. There's parts like these parts would somehow, like, everything would lock in better now, but it doesn't, because that was just how things were at the time. This is the early 2000s. Remember, this came out in December of 2003. So yeah, it's pretty old. You know, it's a 23-year-old toy now, and yeah, its age shows in the sense of how it's engineered. They've learned a lot since then. It's a lot better now. A redo of alternators now would probably be significantly have significantly better engineering, but also cost probably significantly more money. But yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, because like this is collector-oriented line. You can see again. It is reminiscent of Smokescreen, in the sense he's got the door wings, he's got the hood chest, he's got the, you know, the tail, you know, the back and the trunk of the car becomes the feet and everything. He does hit a lot of the sensibilities of the Datsuns, although he's not a Datsun, he's an Impreza. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing in there, because yeah, that's what they're doing. They're trying to do this thing of like, you know, how to, you know, appealing to collectors. This was kind of how they did it, which is, remember the G1 stuff? Well, here's a modern day idea of like, hey, let's take it to more of an extreme, but it didn't work as well. The problem was, I think the problem with alternators was the only one that won. A lot of collectors went to Binaltech, which didn't help, because Binaltech also sold poorly. So why did it not sell well? And I think part of it was simply I think this was when we started seeing the first it's not G1 accurate enough, or whatever. We started seeing that a lot. There's the rumor, the rumble got around of these are really complicated and hard. You know, they're really complicated. And then on top of that, a lot of the more desirable figures sold out really quickly, and then stuff shelf formed. So you'd have stuff like Hound was not very desirable, and he shelf formed like crazy. And so Walmart didn't order more, and then so people weren't buying them anymore, at least on Walmart. They're going online to buy them, and sometimes spending more money than they want to, because the only people who held them are scalpers, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, the line just eventually fizzled out and whatnot. So at the time, yeah, collectors could not support a line by themselves, because in part for multiple reasons. It was kind of a whole thing there, but yeah, it didn't do very well. And then Vinyl Tech eventually also tried to do the whole Kiss Players thing, and that didn't go well either. And then they tried to do Alternators, which is a kind of a different thing, but kind of the same concept. And but it's also the other thing was a lot of collectors kind of thought the robots looked a little weird. And they kind of do look a little weird because, well, look at it. His hands go all the way down to his knees. That's a little long. So yeah, it's kind of one of the things they kind of sometimes had some compromises for the sake of, making the licensors happy. So that was kind of the issue for a lot of collectors. So that became a problem. That was a genuine problem for a lot of people. And that's probably part of the reason why, it's between, ones that people wanted just disappearing off the shelf immediately, ones people didn't want just languishing on the shelf, causing, no restocks, and just divisive designs. That's probably what killed it. I personally love the Alternators. I was really disappointed when they were kind of killed off forever, but, as it stands, I still have my collection of Alternators. I still have a whole bunch of them, and maybe one day I'll review all of them, and, over the course of, this whole retro review thing. But I want to start off the first one because, it's the first one. It's Genesis of Alternators, which also you can thank this for, again, the movies. A lot of the later Masterpiece stuff was definitely, I think, was somewhat influenced by Alternators and so on and so forth. These were fun toys, and they're still fun, and composability was really great too, because head here, you got left and right, up and down, because ball joint, and even wiggle waggle right there. You got shoulders can do a full 360 right here. You get the doors out of the way too. Good there, because the doors you can adjust the angle of the doors. You can do outward, although you kind of have to be careful with that because this part right here got out of the way, so you had to kind of do some finicky maneuvering. But you could get outward and even upward and everything at the shoulder. You just had to be willing to work for it a bit. So yeah, certain poses weren't possible just because of this piece. If only this piece could fold away or something, but that would, I think, compromise the turning the tire thing. There was no bicep swivel, unfortunately. There's not really a lot of room there as it stands. There is a double jointed elbow though, which is nice. That is always a good thing. You do have a wrist on a ball joint, so it swivels. The fingers can open and close, and I believe, yes, the index finger is its own separate piece, although you can't really do much with that. It doesn't look very good, but you have something. There is a waist swivel, which is nice. You had to be mindful because, if you're not careful with these hips, they can catch, and but the waist swivel can, do full 360. The hips themselves can go, forward. Again, you have to be mindful because once you hit a certain point, the hip itself, the hip design right here will just bang into that, and that's it. That's your forward right there. You can see that is not a lot of forward unless you start, twisting the waist at the same time, and then, still get catches, and, it's not great. Backwards, funny enough, you get more backwards because of, the design. So that was a whoopsie on their part. Outward, you only get that much because there's no cut right here. If there was only you can see there's a spot. You could easily, I feel like they easily done a cut right there, but that's all you get outward, unfortunately. And there's no real thigh swivel other than, well, again, just wiggling on the ball joint, which it's a funny thing is, I'll say this. A lot of the joints on this toy, even though it's 23 years old, are still really tight. The knees, though, you do have this knee right here, which, again, still really tight. And you get not really quite 90 degrees. There's not really a whole lot of knee bend there. You do have a lot of weird forward knee bend, which is kind of interesting in its own right. Right here, you do have a joint right here for the ankle, forward and back, and you also have, so you can kind of adjust how it sits a little bit, but it's supposed to be fully extended. You can see right there, but you do have a little bit of adjustment right there. There is no tilt. There's no rotation. You can adjust the toes a little bit, like up and down, and adjust the sits how it sits a little bit. But again, it's kind of supposed to sit a certain way because if it doesn't sit a certain way, these tires will just kind of make them just kind of roll. So you can kind of make them roll around a bit as well. But yeah. The posability, there's a lot of posability that's kind of there, but also a lot of it's compromised. So you only can get so many poses before it's like, you're kind of, that's it. You kind of hit the upper limits of what this toy can actually do. As for this, you can unfold this part and tab that in, and now you have a gun, which is, looks pretty neat. Looks very gun-like. And right here, there's little pegs on the handle, which correspond with little holes in the hand. And you can peg into either one of his hands. And this is where I feel like this is the genesis, the beginnings of the Masterpiece tab and slot system. It holds in pretty securely. Different alternators had struggled to some degrees. Like I know I have some alternators which definitely struggle to hold their weapons. Like I have a Grimlock, which he cannot hold his weapon with crap, but he holds his gun pretty securely. So that's nice, right there. And yeah. it's just alternators are just kind of an interesting thing. Again, collector-oriented line that just kind of failed, in part because there weren't as many collectors, adult collectors back in 2003 as there are kind of now. So, and also other things, and some people scream and yell about something or another, because, you know, there's always someone who's going to scream and blame Hasbro for something, but yeah. Yeah, in this mode, his height up to the top of his head is 6 3/4 inches or 17.1 centimeters. So he's pretty good size, but not that big. And yeah. So some quick comparisons again. Here's again, modern deluxe smokescreen. Right there, you see quite the size difference. But yeah, there's kind of a whole difference there in the sense of, like, this was not a deluxe. This was a thing for there. And of course, Masterpiece Blue Streakers again don't have a Masterpiece smokescreen, so there you go. This is where I feel like a lot of the ideas from alternators kind of translated to a let's refine it a lot and make it more G1 and do it in Masterpiece. And there you go. There's that. So yeah, Alternator Smokescreen here. That was the thing, was he was a cool toy, and he was also a toy that was very budget friendly, well, somewhat, for 2003, because this guy released in December 2003 and cost $19.99 US, which is wild to think about nowadays, considering now the modern deluxe costs almost $30. But I will point out, thanks to inflation and whatnot, this guy would cost about $37, say precisely $36.41. So yeah. And that's the thing, is he's about as complicated as a modern day Voyager when it comes to engineering, but his posability is a lot more limited. And yet he might be heavier and whatnot, but like, just grabbing a modern day Voyager, he might be heavier than this guy, but he's only a little bit taller, he's less posable, and his engineering is, well, this one is probably not a good example for engineering, but Voyager engineering is like not, I would say he's roughly comparable to modern Voyager, maybe Leader. He's kind of in between a Voyager and Leader when it comes to that sort of thing. So it's kind of a weird place, because, like, yeah, things are a little bit different now, but yeah, he's definitely compromised, but he's still like, I still like these things. And the thing about the alternators is on the aftermarket, they're not too bad, depending on which ones. Certain ones are worth a lot more than others, but like this one, I believe Smokescreen, it also got later released as Smokescreen GT with a slightly updated look for 2004 in vinyl tech, and then like, yeah, again, there's a Silver Streak repaint. But like, how do I put this? You can I think you can get an alternator nowadays for anywhere from like $30 to $60 easy. I just a couple years ago, I bought Alternators Prowl for about $50 sealed. So like, they're not difficult to get. They're not particularly spendy. So yeah, if you like this and you didn't get it the first time around, you might want to poke around and see if you can find one. Oh yes, there's several broken ones out there. I would say that, but yeah, you can get these for not too much money. Honestly, they don't really break the bank, and they're still pretty solid figures. But just know that they are somewhat limited, and they can also look a little goofy. To say the least. Oh man, you should see which one I'm thinking of. That's really kind of goofy looking, the Wind Charger or the Skids mold are really goofy looking. It's still kind of a neat line as a whole. It's kind of a neat idea. It just might have been a little too early in the sense that, like, yeah, the collector fan base wasn't there yet to really support it. And also, I think their engineering chops weren't really there to support it quite yet either. I mean, there's still some really clever things going on here, but just, again, there's an awkwardness that probably wouldn't exist today. They would, these proportions, like these shoulders would sit a little higher so that arms would be a little bit different so they wouldn't be dangling so hard. There would be ankle tilts and their stuff would lock in better and whatnot. It'd probably be smaller and whatnot, and probably a little bit cheaper overall, but it would, probably have a much more satisfying look robot and also much more satisfying transformation. But that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of how things are. It's kind of hard to describe this sort of stuff because, we're talking about 23-year difference here, and yeah, and some people unwilling to accept that maybe things weren't perfect in the past. But still a really fun toy, and if you can get one for a good price, go for it. This one or the Silver Streak version are pretty solid. And the Vinyltech version, to kind of be careful because a lot of those out there apparently have really bad paint, but particularly with this particular Smokescreen Binaltech Smokescreen particularly is real bad paint, but those kind of go for a lot more. They look really nice, but yeah, they're kind of more spendy. So yeah, alternators can get real cheap, so just be aware of that. So yeah, that's my long rambling review of a old mold that's still kind of neat, but I don't think fully holds up over in the intervening 20 years. It's just a lot of weird things about it that kind of hold it back, but there's still a lot of cool things going on. So yeah. So that's it for this review. I hope you found it informative and entertaining. Hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my social medias down in the description and in the video. Check out my Ko-Fi and my Patreon. I shall see you next time with another video review.